Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Up today I'm looking at a fairly new diesel locomotive from Bachmann. Today I'm shooting on a brand new camera for the first time, and obviously that is quite a big change for the channel, so please do bear with me if there are any visual issues today. As soon as I'm used to it, they'll be much better. Anyway, last year, 2021, I took a look at Bachmann's old tooling Class 20 locomotive. And I believe, as far as I could find out, that this model dated back to 2003. I got it for a really reasonable price, and all things considered, it was a fairly decent model for what it was. I ended up giving it a score of about 7 out of 10. However, of course, there is a new Class 20 on the market and it's been out for around a year or so, and today we're going to be looking at that. So here is an example of the new Bachmann Class 20. It's a Class 20/3. And as a new tooled locomotive, that of course means that Bachmann have designed this model from the ground up quite recently. The RRP on Bachmann's website for the new Class 20 DCC ready is £179.95, and I bought this one from Kerno at a reduced price of £124.99. For a brand new tooled model with relatively high specs, as I understand it, that sounds spot on, doesn't it? Particularly given Bachmann's reputation for being quite expensive. So really looking forward to this. It's high time I took a look at the new Class 20. So please join me and we'll find out what it's like. So as you can see, it's quite the livery on this locomotive, isn't it? I think it's probably known as the Harry Needle, was it Harry Needle? Orange livery. And from what I can gather, this is the poorest selling of the new Bachmann Class 20s. And I say that because it is this one that is quite heavily discounted in quite a few retailers' shops. So that's why I've got this version. I'm not 100% sure where I stand on this livery. I'm not very keen on it from what I've seen so far, but I guess I'll make a final call once I've got the model out. Let me show you the end of the box though. So the version I've got is 35-126. It's a Class 20/3, number 20311. It is, yeah, Harry Needle Railroad Company, and this has a 22-pin DCC socket, which is a little bit unusual. Not even sure if I've looked at one of those in a review before, so yeah, we'll take a look later on. Anyway, let me show you the back of the box, because here is a brief history of the Class 20. As always, if you want to read that, feel free to pause it and do so, but I will give you a bit of Class 20 history in just a second. For now though, really curious to see what this new model from Bachmann is like. Hopefully it's decent, but let's get it out and see. Alright, so first look. Alright, yeah, it's a strange one. It is a strange one in terms of livery, isn't it? My word. Right, go on then, let's see what it's like. I'm just really interested to see how this compares to the existing Class 20. I think it should be very interesting. Okay, paperwork, so this is the owner's information just here, and it's got some interesting specs on it. For instance, this does have a 5-pole motor with twin shafts, so that's fantastic. Talks more about the DCC compatibility and the decoder you need. Apparently this does have a factory fitted speaker, which is decent, and it also has pickup going to all wheels, which is also very good. Here you've got diagrams which show the location of the optional accessories, so that's all good. Accessories continued, even more accessories, so quite a lot. Shows you the lubrication points. Apparently you've got some switches for changing the lighting modes, and those are covered by a little detailing piece, it looks like, so you can't even see those switches when the model is in use. That's fantastic. Then you've got some information on DCC fitting, so it looks like body removal is achieved by just removing a couple of screws, so that's pretty handy, and we'll see how simple and easy that is. And then, yeah, the actual fitting of the decoder itself, which again we'll look at in a more detail in just a second. Cool. And this is just for the collector's club, I guess the warranty perhaps. Yeah, whatever. Right, let's take a look then. Let's see what you get inside the pack. And it looks like a very hefty accessory pack to start with, so let's see what you get in here. So obviously the first and most noticeable inclusion are these snowplows. That is absolutely awesome. It looks as though they are sort of screwed to the model, and yeah, there are some screws included, so they're not NEM fitted snowplows or anything, but that's fair enough. Quite a bit of buffer beam detail in here, and that does include functioning screw link couplings. Yeah, I can see a couple of those in there, so that's awesome. And we've got just one NEM coupling inside here, so does that mean the Loco's got one fitted to it as standard? Yeah, I suppose it does. Fine, great opportunity for some customization there, and the snowplows are awesome. Yeah, that's just a really nice option to have. Okay, let's see what Bachmann have done with this model then. Here goes. Wow. Okay, so a couple of things I noticed immediately. First of all, fan. That looks like a good fan, doesn't it? Behind a very clearly etched grille. Second thing, finish. Yeah, the top of the Loco is just sort of plain black, and it's very shiny. Look at that. Yeah, nice satin sheen to it. Yeah, not a big fan of the livery, but yet it still looks fantastic because of that finish. Right. Let's pull the model out and let's take a close look. So the weight feels pretty good, I have to say. Yeah, there seems to be a decent bit of heft to this, given the fact that it's a relatively small and early diesel. So yeah, it doesn't feel astonishingly heavy or anything, but I think for what it is, the weight seems all right. Second of all, I'm really used to looking at the old tooling Bachmann Class 20, and by comparison, this is obviously much more detailed. The bogie detail just jumps out at me. The underframe detail is just stunning. Look at that. And the bodywork and such looks great as well. So really, for what I paid, £125, if this is up to the usual Bachmann standards, and I think it's going to be, then this was an absolute bargain. But I'm really interested to see what the level of detail is like, and so we'll take a close look at that in just a second. First though, let's have some history on the Class 20s in real life. Also known as the English Electric Type 1, the Class 20 was a fleet of 228 locomotives constructed between 1957 and 1968 by English Electric. Weighing in at 73 tonnes, the class was so numerous because it was one of the first diesel engines in this power range to be deemed successful. Given their size, the stats were actually reasonably impressive. They boasted a top speed of 75 miles per hour and an approximate power output of 750 kilowatts, although they were often double-headed in order to haul larger freight trains. While not unheard of, the Class 20 did not usually haul passenger trains, but instead they were used for mixed freight. Interestingly though, the class did use steam-era disc indicators to start with, prior to the introduction of head codes in 1960, making them a classic transitional locomotive between the days of steam and the days of diesel. Most remaining members of the class are now in preservation, that's 22 I think it is, although 6 of them actually remain in service, which is astonishing. The rest of the class were withdrawn from 1976 onwards. So there it is, up close and personal for you, the new Bachmann Class 20. And this really is Bachmann at their best, isn't it? I'm sure you can tell just by looking at it from a distance that this is a truly tremendous model. It's clear to see how detailed this is, and I'll show you more on that in just a second. Yet also it's an incredibly sturdy model, well built like you wouldn't believe, nothing loose, nothing dropping off. It also seems to be very well designed. There's clearly been a lot of thought put into this model, and it shows immediately. I'm not a fan of the livery. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's not my favourite livery, and yet the model itself is so great that I can't help but absolutely love it. It is awesome. The weight is pretty decent. It weighs in at 340 grams, which funnily enough is exactly the same to the gram as the Murphy Models Class 121, which is visually very, very similar. It is, however, quite a bit lighter than the old tooling Bachmann Class 20, which was around 15% heavier than this. But when you consider all of the extra tech that this Loco's got, the pre-fitted speaker, the higher quality mechanism, and presumably a more sophisticated lighting package, a loss of just 15% on the weight doesn't seem too bad, or at least you can understand why it should be a little bit lighter. But now let's take a closer look at this Loco. We'll talk about the decoration because clearly the finish is just excellent. This is a really good quality Bachmann finish. Absolutely love it. There are quite a few different colours going on with the bodywork, including the yellow end here, which is extremely clean, no paint bleed at all. Same with the black roof with the orange stripe. I mean, it's just absolutely pristine, isn't it? Every part of the model in terms of decoration looks superb. Even these grills, look how cleanly they have been painted. It's genuinely excellent. You've got the Harry Needle rail lettering on the side of this little box here. More information on the side of the cab, including the running number. Electric warning signs, which are very fine yet very easy to read. The sole bar has quite a lot of printed detail on it as well, and as you can see, all of that is extremely crisp. Look at this, just the print work on the underframe here is absolutely outstanding, isn't it? Yeah, it's just a wonderful model wherever you look. Let's take a look at the bogie detail, because clearly the axle boxes have been separately painted, again with utmost precision it looks like, and all of this pipe work appears to be separately fitted as well, so it's got great relief to it, and also that allows it to be painted very accurately as well. Fantastic bogie detail. The bodywork itself has these high shine chrome plated handrails, which again are absolutely pristine. They look really, really good. I think these grills, the large radiator grills, are probably separately fitted because they're set back quite a way into the body, which gives a real impression of depth and realism that I like a lot. The grille on top of the locomotive is definitely etched because you can see that fan through it, and if I blow, yeah, you can see the fan does actually turn around. Clearly that means it's not motorized, but maybe that means that you could try to motorize it if you wanted to. I also really like what Bachmann have done with the buffer beams. So what we will call the back end today is a simplified version of the buffer beam in terms of the amount of separately fitted parts we've got. So we have got the lamp irons above the buffer beam, we have got the lights, which I'm sure are going to work, we'll test that later on. We've got sprung buffers, which are made of metal, that's really good to see. A very realistic looking coupling hook, and also a pre-fitted NEM coupling. What it doesn't have is the screw link coupling pre-fitted, and of course the rest of the buffer beam detail, including the vacuum pipes and such, that has all been missed off. The front buffer beam though does have the screw link coupling pre-fitted, which allows the front of the Loco to look a bit more realistic, and in order to finish off that effect we also don't have the NEM coupling pre-fitted at that end. So it's like the Loco is realistic and ready to run straight out of the box, and yet you don't have to faff about with couplings and such in order to actually run this Loco and couple it to some rolling stock. So you see what I mean about them putting some thought into the model. I think that's really impressive. The cab area looks fantastic. We've got separately fitted metal handrails outside the door, which is again very nicely moulded with a very intricately painted handle on it, as you can see. Bit of a nasty fingerprint on the bottom of the door there though, which I am a little bit surprised to see. Great glazing, extremely fine glazing, which is very flush to the outside of the body. Separately fitted wipers on the front, all kinds of detail on the front of the cab. And the cab interior is just very, very impressive indeed. Look at this, all that painted detail inside. Very fine moulded detail in there. It all looks very scale, really, doesn't it? Loads of separately fitted parts, loads of detail. It's a world apart from the old tooling Bachmann Class 20, which admittedly did have a fairly lackluster cab. And finally, I will just show you a bit more of the underframe, because underneath the model you've still got detail going on, which is all separately painted and such. Yeah, I mean, for what I paid, £124.99, that's just extremely impressive, isn't it? It's not too bad, and even at the RRP of £179.95, the price kind of makes sense because of how complex this is. So overall, very, very impressed, very pleased with my purchase, and Bachmann have certainly not disappointed with the amount of detail and the quality of the model they've produced here. So can't wait to see how this thing runs, can't wait to see it coupled up to a train. Let's move on to that section now. Let's take a look at the mechanism and let's see what kind of performance this beautiful, beautiful model is capable of producing. So there she is, down onto the track then, the tremendous, really, Bachmann Class 20. And the first performance test has already been filmed, and I'll show you that in just a second. No spoilers right now. First though, let's talk a little bit about the mechanism, and I've got to say, things are just as impressive on the inside of this model as they are on the outside. So the couplings are refreshingly simple. We've got no convoluted kinematic couplings on this Loco. The couplings are fitted directly to the bogies, which of course removes the need for any such overcomplicated kinematics. The base keepers are both clipped and screwed into place, which is a great quality feature because if the clips fail over time, as clips very often do, then the Loco is not useless because the base keeper plate is still going to stay in place. Removing the base keeper reveals a proper set of turned metal bearings on each axle, which is awesome. The gears look really crooked and nasty, but of course that's because these are helical gears, which is generally seen as a more quality solution to traditional gears. We'll see how that affects the Loco's performance later on. And then pickups, every wheel has a wiper pickup going directly to it, and that is the sort of standard way of doing things. Body removal was nice and simple, just 2 screws and the body comes off. Nice die-cast chassis, plenty of weight to it. Not terribly convenient removing the body because there are no spring-loaded contacts for the lights and such. You've got these connectors instead. The wires are long enough though so that you can remove the body enough to access the DCC socket. There that is. So it's not a big deal at all really. There's also the speaker, that's it just there, that's what the instructions mention, so that's pretty nice. 5-pole motor, can't really see it very well, but according to the instructions, again, this is a 5-pole motor, and there is also a flywheel on each end of the motor as well, which is just great quality, of course. And then the gauging is fairly consistent at 14.2mm back to back, which is about right. That's about where most good running Locos are at. So as a new tooled locomotive, this has a very good quality mechanism, which easily matches the quality of the exterior detailing, which is great to see. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and roll the performance test. Okay, moment of truth then. How does this thing perform? Of course, there is a lot riding on this because the old Bachmann Class 20 was absolutely phenomenal in terms of performance. So it's going to be very, very difficult for this new model from Bachmann to actually outperform the old one. So, no pressure, new Bachmann Class 20. Let's see if this works. Going to give it some forwards direction. Here we go. There we go. And it's not been running yet. This is literally its first ever run. And it seemed to take off very nice and smoothly there. I can see we have got lights coming on, so we've got directional lighting even on analog mode. So yeah, white lights, cool white going forwards, red when it's going backwards, so that's cool. Noticeably there is quite an effective cab light as well, which illuminates some of that absolutely tremendous cab detail. That's a great feature. So yeah, definitely the lighting package is a massive improvement over the old Class 20. And even though I've not tried a crawl yet, it's clear that this is a very smooth performer. I mean, look at that. That's pretty good for a Loco that's not even been run in yet, isn't it? Phew, quite an impressive model then. Yeah, I mean, it looks as though the performance at the very least is going to be decent. Straight out of the box though, let's have a look at the crawl, shall we? See what sort of performance this is going to give. All right, I'm just going to ease it up very slowly. I think we're going, are we? A bit more maybe? Can't tell. I think it is going though. Right, yeah, I'm sure it is, but I can't tell. Let's go a little bit more. Yeah, it's definitely going now. Wow. That's bonkers. Is it still going? Yeah, it's going. Right. Outstanding. Outstanding. How is it doing this? Bit more. Yeah, it is going. It seems to be fluctuating a little bit, perhaps moving suddenly and then stopping for a bit, but still, at this kind of speed, that is ridiculously good. That is ridiculously good. Let's see if we can do a gradual acceleration with that. See, at that speed, it seems to be cogging quite a bit, actually. See that? Yes. Not sure about that. Maybe that will get better as it runs in. But at most speeds, though, even before this has been running, I can honestly say that this is very smooth. I mean, look at that. Reasonably quiet as well, which is good. Yeah, I like this. I like this. For 125 or whatever it cost me, this is spot on. This is right on the money. Great. Right, let's see how it gets on around the track then. 50% forwards to start with, 30 minutes. Here we go. Right, so that is at 50% speed right there, and to be honest that seems reasonably sensible, doesn't it? It doesn't seem to be too fast, but equally it's certainly not crawling along dead slow. Overall though, I'd say the gearing seems reasonable, definitely reasonable. And clearly it's also not having any issues on the curves, the gradient obviously not causing problems. It did say in the instructions that it's got all-wheel pickup, so clearly that's allowing it to make it around the track without stuttering and cutting out. To be honest, I can't think of any boxes that this model is not checking. It seems to be pretty much spot on right across the board, doesn't it? Which is good news for the ratings, that's for sure. But yeah, I'll let this run in then. 30 minutes in this direction, then 30 minutes in reverse. Then we'll come back and finish off the review. At the moment though, I'm thinking very, very positively about this Loco. Very positively indeed. So there we go, that is running in complete. No problems at all. This thing was perfectly smooth, never saw it slow down, never saw it cut out, it's not too noisy, doesn't seem to wobble and shake too much as it runs. Yeah, absolutely tremendous performance. The pulling power is not bad either. I measured 0.62 newtons of tractive effort, which should be enough to haul around 36 coaches. A little bit less than the old Class 20 though, which had enough to haul 53 coaches. But still, I think 36 on straight and level track at least, that's quite good. You know, you're not really going to be asking much more of a Class 20 than that, I don't think. Anyway, so the crawl was okay before. It was remarkably slow, but not particularly smooth. So has running in improved that at all? Let's see. Easing it up. Still easing it up. Still easing it up. Are we... Oh, try. Oh, okay. Maybe it just stalled. Let's try again. Forwards. There we go. Bit more. So I mean, down at the low end, it's just phenomenal. I don't know how it does that. Yeah, we've still got the cogging though at that speed, which is weird because it's smooth above that speed and it's smooth below. But at just this sort of starting speed, it does this cogging thing, which is unfortunate. But, you know, it's a relatively small complaint because as we speed up, obviously it becomes perfectly smooth again. So I would say at 95% of the operating speeds, this Loco is a perfect runner. Means I can't give it a completely perfect score for performance, but it's near to perfect, very near. Yeah, it's a really good performer, isn't it? So let's talk about haulage then. So I've set up some southern coaches, not entirely suitable, of course, but there are 5 of them there, and hopefully that will be at least a decent demonstration of this Loco's abilities. So here we go, let's go couple to them. So I'm thinking this Loco should be able to perform a very, very controlled coupling, so let's try and do that. There we go. Are we in? Yes, yes, we're in. Okay, so let's try another gentle acceleration and see how realistic it looks. So here we go, forwards, gentle acceleration. And it can do that perfectly. So there's plenty of torque there. Beautiful, smooth performance. So on the middle line, I'm going to be running the previous Class 20. So let me bring that in. And I think this is still a fine model. I mean, it still looks good, it runs well. However, it has been cast into the shade by the new Bachmann Class 20 in terms of the level of detail and such. So from what I've seen of the new one, I think it's a really worthy upgrade from this old one. But nevertheless, it's still a decent model. I'll still be keeping mine, of course, because it still puts on a good show. So there it goes. And then just to show how far we've come really, I've set up a couple of the old Lima Class 20s, which are the same as the Class 20s except for the chassis that Hornby produce. Surprise, surprise. But these are still good runners, but obviously not a patch on the work of Bachmann. But still quite interesting to see them, I think. So there they go. Right, let's go and catch up with the new Bachmann 20. And don't forget to see which other locomotives you can spot in the sidings. There is an odd one out, and I will pin the first comment to correctly identify it. Alright, so here she comes. See if she maintains her speed. Not got her running ever so fast now because I think the Class 20 looks best a bit slower, to be honest. But it still seems pretty consistent if you ask me. Yeah, can't really fault that, can you? Yeah, it looks excellent. So overall, what can I say? It's a wonderful, wonderful model. It looks great. There's clearly been a lot of thought and development put into the model, and that has definitely paid off. It's a great performer, and it's got a great mechanism to match, so it ought to remain a good runner for many years to come, which, let's be honest, is exactly what you deserve when you spend hundreds of pounds on a locomotive. So that's all great. There's really nothing I can criticise about this. The price is right as well. It's certainly not inexpensive. I mean, these cost a lot of money, that's true, but at least in this case you get what you pay for, and I hope that I've demonstrated that that is very much the case with this locomotive. So overall, fantastic work from Bachmann. If you're in the market for a Class 20, this has to be the one. It's the best Class 20 model I've ever looked at. I think that goes without saying, and it's possibly one of the best value as well. Let's have some ratings then for the new tooled Bachmann Class 20. The level of detail for me can't be anything other than 5-star. Obviously, I'm not an expert on the prototype, so I can't speak too much about how accurate this is, but in terms of the level of detail, you can colour me extremely impressed. The decoration, superb, great quality of the paint and also great quality of the finish. You've got so many separately fitted parts, separately fitted grille, sprung buffers, screw link couplings included, really realistic cab detail, fantastic lighting package, you name it, this Loco's got it. The performance is very close to being perfect. At the high speeds, it's very, very smooth and consistent, handles curves and gradients without any issues whatsoever, and the slow speed performance is really impressive too. But at some speeds, down at the low end, it is a little bit coggy, perhaps not got quite as much torque as you might expect it to, but that's only a very minor issue, so I've only knocked it down by about half a star. The pulling power is not too bad, 36 coaches or 0.62 newtons of tractive effort. I think that is enough so that this model can handle anything you could reasonably throw at it. So absolutely fine, obviously not quite as much as the older Class 20 though. The mechanism, again, has to be a 5-star. It's a good quality mechanism, held together with screws, not just clips, which is great. Proper bearings on the driving axles, all-wheel pickup, helical gears, 5-pole motor, dual flywheels, proper lighting package, good access to the DCC decoder, pre-fitted speaker, the list goes on and on and on. Fantastic mechanism and easy 5-star. The quality similarly, given how complex this model is, given how many separately fitted parts there are, the sturdiness of the model is absolutely incredible. I did spot a little bit of a gluey fingerprint on one of the doors, and so I can't give 5-star given that I spotted that. So knocked it down half a star, good quality though, and decent weight too thanks to the heavy die-cast chassis. Value for money then, the RRP is £179.95, and of course some model shops do sell at RRP. Yeah, I don't think that's an amazing price for what you get here, but it's certainly far from a rip-off. The price I paid from Kerno though, £124.99, that's perfectly good. I mean, that's 5-star, really. Absolutely phenomenal for what you get. So I've split the difference and given it 4-star. Generally speaking, if you shop around, you can get these Class 20s at a very reasonable price given what you get. So the score is incredible, 9.25 out of 10. That's a very high score, might be top of the year. Let's take a look, put it into the logbook. And yes, yeah, it is. It's top by quite a long way, above the Hatton's P-Class, of course. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great model at a great price. Something I wish we could see a lot more often. Well folks, thank you very much for joining me for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course I hope the new camera did this Loco proud. Haven't seen the footage yet, but it seems to be just fine. Might need to tweak the white balance a little bit, but the sharpness of the image seems great. This camera will allow me to eventually switch to 4K, which I will do once I'm used to it. So yeah, I'm very, very happy. It's allowed me to work much more quickly. It's got much more features. The focusing is better. The lens is better. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. And hopefully it did a good job of capturing this Class 20 for you. For now though, thank you very much for watching. Do comment down below to let me know what you thought about the video. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Alright, cheers folks. Take care.